Hey guys, it's Laura and Greg, and I'm starting a new thing. Greg doesn't know yet, but I'm calling this couples car therapy. We did it last Sunday and we're doing it today. I don't know if we're going to do it again, but it sounds like fun. So today at church, our pastor was preaching on so the title of the series that he's preaching is called The Chosen. And this is, I think, like week 5. And today he made a point on talking about the word. But one of the points he made in his message that really hit me, was a word that was spoken over you, or a word that was said about you, a word that you have taken and labeled yourself with. And I got to thinking, my gosh, how many of us do that? I know I do. One of the words that I have labeled myself with, and I feel like other people have probably labeled me with, is damaged. And so I have taken that word, and I have, throughout the years, I have labeled myself as damaged goods. From the time I was little, most of you know that, I was adopted, I was physically and sexually abused, and so I was damaged as a little girl. I was adopted, I grew into a teenager, I rebelled, got into drugs, got in bad relationships, so therefore I was damaged as a teenager. That led into adulthood, and I was still damaged. And so, I think my word that I have taken from other people and from myself and labeled myself with is damaged. So, Greg, what would you say your word would be that you have kind of labeled yourself with?
It's a good question. Sometimes we label ourselves. So we label ourselves with maybe bad decisions that you've made in your life, maybe like marriages. So you
because we've both been divorced, for those of you that don't know us.
So you get divorced, and then when, depending on how you're raised, if you're raised in a boxed up religion, then they more or less will
shun you.
You can't do anything for God in their church. You can't do anything. So I felt there was times when I felt I didn't even feel worthy to go into church. And so sometimes we label ourselves when that's not what God says. It's not who God says we are.
Right. And I mean, I guess I can play off that because, my drug use, he's driving, I'm not, anyways, and so, and then, the bad choices that I made, I tend to label myself, damaged, of course, but I feel like God has called me to ministry, and I felt that for a very long time. I've been fighting it, and I allow myself and I allow, Satan to tell me that I'm damaged, I'm not good enough. Well, you were a drug user, you were this, you were that. How can God use you? So I think, that kind of relates to what you were saying as being divorced, because he was raised up Pentecostal, Assembly of God, and, he just feels like, what do you feel like? I mean, you can't, for the longest time, unworthy. For the longest time, he felt unworthy because he was divorced. And so I still find myself feeling unworthy because of my past life and the decisions and the choices that I made. Even though today we both use those decisions and those choices to help and to minister to other people and to help them, get out of those situations, Satan still comes and tries to attack you and make you believe that you're damaged, you're unworthy, and that, you can't do what God's called you to do. And, I find it, by the way, we go to North Rock Church in Aubrey, and our Pastor G is amazing. He's phenomenal. And today he was real with us, he's always real with us, but today he just, I don't know. Today he said, he gets in his head too. We all get in our heads. But he gets in his head too. He's a phenomenal pastor. But sometimes Satan makes him think different as well. He thought sometimes he feels like he's unworthy, he shouldn't be pastoring, things like that. And for me, that was cool to hear that from our pastor, that he was actually being real and speaking to us about, you know, the same things that we face as individuals.
Yeah, I mean, one of the examples that he made was, don't go back and dig through the trash. Pick up the garments that God has freed you from.
Yeah.
You know, we do that a lot. So he takes stuff away from us. He frees us from stuff. But then what do? We later on we let the enemy talk us into going back, digging through that trash, grabbing those garments, and trying to put them back on.
Yeah.
And you can't do that.
No.
You gotta speak. That's what he was talking about. Was speak God in your life.
Yeah, so how do we overcome that? The feeling of being unworthy and damaged. How do we help other people do that as well?
Speak God. I mean, that's what you have to do. So then we went through a little exercise because he was explaining what he had been going through, and then he was explaining what he did. Then he had us go through an exercise.
Yeah.
And I mean, just sitting there in the church with all these people and just speaking, God, I am worthy. God, I am loved. God, I am called. God, just speaking those things, and
It changes your mindset.
it changes your mindset. Even just doing it in there, it was like, wow.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Because we get so used to speaking over ourselves, I'm damaged, I'm unworthy, I'm unlovable, I'm unlikable, I'm all alone. And so that is the mindset and the mind, that we get into, and we convince ourselves of all of those things. When, like Greg said, if we do what, Pastor G said, and we start speaking, I am loved, I am likable, I am worthy, I am called, and you start speaking those things over your life, your mindset shifts, and it goes from doom and gloom to, happy and joy. So yes, that's what we need to, Greg and I are going to make it a point to start speaking those things over our lives when we feel that enemy is attacking us and we feel unworthy and we feel damaged. We're going to start capturing those thoughts and speaking positive things over our lives.
Not only our lives, but
Others.
things that you speak out to others as well should be the same way. When God spoke, I mean, he was doing, healing, he was doing empowerment, he was doing freeing, he was doing, and we don't do that. And a lot of times we speak words, and another point that he brought up was a lot of words that we speak don't just come out of your mouth and fall down and stay in the same room. They can go in and live for years and years, way on beyond that.
Meaning they have lasting impacts on other people.
Right.
Yeah. So, if you speak a bad word to someone, like I've had someone speak bad things over to me, and I've carried those words through me for years and years and years, and I've allowed them to mold me and to shape me. So is that kind of what he was talking about? Yeah.
And we end up making that our identity.
Yeah.
It's not.
So hopefully, whenever you guys start feeling down and, you feel like you're unworthy, you feel like you're damaged, hopefully you can just take little tidbits from this little couples card therapy and, and kind of, hopefully they'll remind you when you're in that moment to capture those thoughts, turn them around, and speak positive words over yourself. As hard as it is, trust me, I get it. Every day it's a battle. But you got to push through, and you got to practice speaking positive thoughts over you, your life, your family, and other people. Got anything else? So now we'll let you go off of this crazy roller coaster ride, it seems like, in my car on this back road. But hopefully you guys have a great Sunday, and I don't know, who knows, we may do this again next Sunday. Couples card therapy. Never know. Anyways, have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.